agreed to, and I call the honourable member for Melbourne.
Thank you. Deputy Speaker, I want to thank the Leader of the Opposition for moving this motion and for all of the speakers who've supported it. And on behalf of everyone who lives in Melbourne and on behalf of the Greens, wholeheartedly endorse it. And I want to tell the Parliament about Sondos, who I met her when she was 11 a little while ago, and she goes to Carlton Primary School in my electorate, and she was running in the 800 metres in the athletics carnival, and halfway through the race, someone yelled out to her, "You're a terrorist, go home." And they yelled that out to her because she had a hijab. And she broke down and was unable to finish the race and went home and talked to her family. And one of her fellow students told me that in their family, the neighbours, when someone had heard a speech from a member of Parliament a couple of years ago about Muslims no longer being welcome here, they'd said, well, does that mean that we have to move countries now? Because that, of course, had been their experience before coming to Australia, that when someone who's from a different political grouping to you gets into Parliament, then it means you are now no longer safe in your home and you might have to move. Now, when I walk down the streets of Melbourne, I never have to worry about getting stopped and searched. When I walk down the streets with my friends, I never worry about people thinking that maybe we're a gang. When I get in robust political debate, I never hear the epithet thrown at me or go back to where you came from. But these things happen to people in Melbourne and right around the country every day, and they happen because of the colour of their skin or because of their religion, and when they happen, they hurt. They hurt. And when those words are uttered by someone who is in Parliament, that hurt is multiplied 1,000-fold. And what I wish the senator who made these comments realises, and perhaps he does, which worries me even more, but what I wish he realised is that not only when he makes those comments does it cause people and their families to hurt and to retreat and to shrink, but it opens the door to violence. It opens the door to violence. And just over a decade ago, we had in Melbourne a young man, and I'll call him an Australian. He was South Sudanese in terms of his family's origin, but he was actually an Australian citizen. But his skin was black, and he was in his 20s. And he was beaten to death by someone who said during the course of the attack that he wanted to take his town back, by a white Australian who said he wanted to take his town back. And I've been hearing reports in recent times from the outer suburbs of Melbourne of people who are now finding themselves in hospital as their assailants say similar things to them and say, I'm beating you up, in essence, because you're black. When people in Parliament stand up and use language that, as has been said, can only be described as white supremacist, proto-fascist, neo-Nazi language, when they start to say, we want a country where the only people welcome in that country are welcome on the basis of a certain race, we open the door to hate and we open the door to violence, and it warms my heart no end to see this Parliament uniting to send the strongest possible message to everyone who's sitting in their lounge rooms or in their schools or in their workplaces, listening to and hurt by the comments that have been made today. The message that is being sent is very, very clear. We stand with you. We stand with you. We do not accept what has been said, and if you are hurting as a result of what you're reading or hearing today, know that the whole Parliament stands with you. We hear your hurt, and we are doing everything we possibly can to stamp it out. And we are entering, I fear and I worry, a a potentially dangerous period in our country, which is why this is so important. We're entering a potentially dangerous period where white supremacists are signalling to each other from our TV screens and our parliaments and making calls that they hope that other people will hear. And then you only need to look at what is happening around the rest of the world to see where that ends. It ends in hurt and it ends in death. And today's action and this motion and the unanimous support that it is receiving is, I hope, a bulwark against Australia sliding down that path. And I want to make a plea to the senator, but also to everyone else. Please tone down the rhetoric around African gangs. Please. Because it is going to result in people dying. It has before and it will again. Okay? And as someone who has gone to many, many events in Victoria and in Melbourne over the years that I've been here, one of the things that I enjoyed the most and that warmed my heart the most was going to events where, at the time, the state Liberal minister from the Liberal government would get up and say at the events, one of the good things about Victoria is that you will never find people who will use race to try and win votes. We have differences of opinions about other things, but you won't find that elsewhere. But you won't find us using that. And I hope we can maintain that, not just in Victoria, but right around the country. So if this moment, this unique moment in Parliament, gives us the opportunity to stop and reflect, I hope we can reflect on the things that we say over the coming months in the course of our political contests. And I also want to lastly just say that we've been trading barbs about a number of things over the recent weeks, but I listened very closely to what the member for Kooyong said this morning when he was asked about the senator's speech yesterday. And he said a number of very, very good and important things, but one of them, I think, is especially worth reflecting on. When asked about that use of that awful phrase, the final solution, member for Kooyong invited the senator to go to the Holocaust Museum and perhaps have a discussion with people there. And I think that's something that, amongst all the other things that the senator should do and that everyone should do, I think that's something that he should do and it's something that everyone should do. Because when you have spoken with someone who has survived the Holocaust, you know that the only way that this will never happen again is that if every single one of us is vigilant in everything we say and everything we do, and we stamp it out at the first sign of it happening. And if you'd done that, there is no way that words like that could fall from someone's lips. And we are in a dangerous situation because as we get to the point where the last of the survivors leave us, it opens up the space. Unless those of us in this parliament and everyone else continue to do the remembering, it opens up the space for people like that to be able to use those words and not have the same kind of firm response, which is why I am so pleased with what this parliament is doing today. And I guess lastly, I'd like to end by doing something that's often done at the beginning, which is to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land and to say that to say it galls me is an understatement, but how can someone be so willfully blind to this country's history to talk about Australia being a white-only country when we've got a black history? And if the senator and everyone else wants to talk about saying, well, go back to where you came from, well, he's probably included in that category as well, as is every one of us who's not an Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander. And many of them must be looking on at the things that he is saying with the same kind of revulsion. And I know that there's a lot of work going on between the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander and the members of the African communities in my electorate and in Melbourne more broadly at the moment. but I think it's appropriate to acknowledge the traditional owners of this country and pay respects to them.